Because if you think about biology, after a female has her first menstrual cycle, she's technically ready to give birth.
Ooh, this will be good.
Like, she's ready to get pregnant and give birth.
Ha. Oh, you're not joking.
All right, that's it. I went easy on you last time. I refuted you, Rosy's Corner, but now I'm gonna intellectually rip you apart for defending something so depraved and evil.
Alright
guys, so first of all, to start off, I think that the Prophet's marriage with Aisha is probably one of the subjects that's mostly talked about by non-Muslims or mainly Islamophobes, right?
I can't imagine why.
So, people always ask, well, why did your Prophet marry somebody of such a young age? Okay. How old would you have liked her to be?
I'd say probably 18 or 20 would probably be best.
What, 18? Because that's the age here? Do we know what the term ethnocentrism is?
Yes, I didn't start studying yesterday, unlike you.
So, think about what age you would like Aisha to be, or you would have liked Aisha to be. Are we going to say 18? Sure, let's go with 18. All right. Well, ethnocentrism is judging another culture solely by the values and standards of one's own culture.
Wait a minute, we're actually going there?
Please tell me you're joking.
And we are all guilty of this. So, like, for example, I am Dominican.
All this ethnocentrism stuff is completely irrelevant because the Quran teaches us that Muhammad was the pattern of conduct in Islam. So all this culture stuff is completely irrelevant because he is the pattern of conduct and the example for everybody, regardless of culture. So all this cultural stuff you bring up is just nothing more than a bunch of red herring fallacies.
So I want us to really quick think about the Western mentality or the Western ideal.
Like, when is the appropriate age to get married? So here in the West, it's 18 is the best age to marry yourself off. Keyword, to marry yourself off. So the age 18 was only recently decided as the appropriate age to marry yourself off, right?
Now, this is not based on any science or any studies.
And how would you know? You clearly haven't done your research.
18 is also the age where you can marry yourself off. But there are places, even here in the United States, where your parents can marry you off even at the age of 15. People also used to get married by the age of 12. 18, again, was only recently decided as the best age for marriage.
Where's your evidence for that? And even if that was true, I highly doubt that they were marrying 12-year-old girls off to 30-year-old men.
And I'm going to point something out. Just because you think this number is so proper or is so correct, it does not give you the right to go back 1,400 years to question a completely different era, a completely different society, culture, in a whole different part of the world based on what? Your norms?
No, because we also have scientific evidence that in allowing children to engage in sexual activity is harmful to them. But we'll get back to that in a bit. I'm going to let you finish your rant first.
Just because this is your new norm, again, new norm, just because this is your new norm, it does not mean you can question our prophet who was from a different time and place.
What did you say? I said...
Just because this is your new norm, it does not mean you can question our prophet who was from a different time and place.
Oh my God!
Do you read anything in the Quran or the Hadith? This is freaking ridiculous. Let me show you something in the Hadith that shows how, yeah, we kind of do have a right to say something about it. According to Surah 33:21, Muhammad is the pattern of conduct in Islam. But here's another thing. Even if we accept the fact that maybe he didn't know it was harmful back then, there is one person who did know, and that is your God. In Sahih al-Bukhari 7012, we can see how Allah actually gave Aisha to Muhammad. And so actually your God should have known that it was wrong. Your God should have known that it hurts children. Either he's not omniscient or he's evil. And if you would actually read the Islamic literature instead of acting like you know it, you might actually understand why we object to it.
And now I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh my goodness, are you promoting child marriage? No.
Yes, you are. You're not condemning Muhammad's marriage to Aisha, and he was the pattern of conduct in your religion. So yes, you are promoting it.
No. What I am simply saying is, if within a given culture, if it is something that is acceptable, if you knew that there wasn't any issues, if it wasn't bad back then in the eyes of the Arabs, like really think about it. People back then were looking for anything and everything to badmouth the prophet, peace be upon him. Don't you think that if this was a real issue, that they would have brought this up?
You're killing me, Smalls.
Another pitiful argument from silence. Is this really the best you can do, Rosy?
Like, you can't try to force your... Just because things are one way now does not mean that that's how they have always been.
Just because something is one way where you are at does not mean that they're the same way somewhere else. And that does not give you the right to say, well, this is wrong just because that's your norm. And I get it, okay? I get it. Here in America, or here in the West. Well, I'll say in the West. If you're 10 or 12, yeah, you're still in school, you're still playing with dolls, but if you're in that tribe, that's not what you're doing. At the age of 10, you're learning how to pick berries, you're learning how to cook and clean that animal that's being brought and hunted.
That doesn't change the fact that certain things are still harmful to that child's body. That does not change. That's the problem. But this is exactly what Islam does to people. It doesn't teach people how to think critically, because if it did, people would leave. I mean, you couldn't solve a freaking mystery on Blue's Clues, because then you'd have to know what it's like to know how to
use our minds, take a step at a time. We can do anything that we wanna do.
Well, that is except teach people the truth, Steve. But that's because she doesn't know how to do that.
Just because something is one way where you are at does not mean that it's the same way somewhere else. Now, I've also heard people say, well, no, it's not that, it's the age gap. It's the age gap that bothers me.
Nothing gets past you.
Okay. Would you have a problem with an 100-year-old man marrying a 60-year-old woman? If the answer is no, then you don't have a problem with the age gap.
You are the dumbest dumb person I have ever met.
The fact that the difference needs to be explained to you shows you're pretty delusional, Rosie. So I'm going to say this in the easiest way I possibly can, and I'll even say it slow for you so that someone with a tiny brain like yours can follow. In the context of Muhammad and Aisha, when Aisha was 9 and Muhammad was in his 50s, is not the same as a 100-year-old man and a 60-year-old woman. Why? Because a 9-year-old girl's body has not developed fully. A 50-year-old man's body has fully developed. In the context of a 60-year-old woman and a 100-year-old man, both of their bodies have developed. Was that easy enough for you to follow? I really hope so.
Okay, so now I want you to think. How do you determine the age of marriage? Is it biology? Because if you think about biology, after a female has her first menstrual cycle,
Don't you do it.
she's technically ready to give birth. Like, she's ready to get pregnant and give birth.
Calm down, diddly 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 diddly. They did their best, shoddily iddly iddly diddly. Gotta be nice, hostility diddly diddly diddly. Ah, hell, diddly ding dong crap!
You're educating no one. You haven't done any research on this whole thing. Because it doesn't take much research to know that's not true. There's a lot more to being able to give birth than just simply having a menstrual period. And if you actually read the research, you would see that it's been said that any woman who gives birth in their early teens or even their mid-teens is at greater risk of negative effects. Let's take a look at some informed websites. As you can see, according to this medical website, most girls sexually mature by the time they are 14, and they usually stop growing around 16. Aisha was 9 when all of this happened. That was 7 years younger than the usual. So all this culture stuff is irrelevant. Science does not care about culture or any of that. And what about boys and girls who have precocious puberty? Meaning they have puberty at earlier ages from like 8 to 10 years old, when most people experience puberty from ages 10 to 15. Does that mean a woman is ready to give birth at 8 or 10 years old? I don't think so. Because there's more to being able to give birth than simply having a menstrual cycle. Because you also got to have your hips widened. A woman needs to be able to do that. She has to sexually mature. Her body has to, learn to endure the painful childbirth and so forth. Children cannot handle this.
You blithering idiot!
Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope it was in some way informative, and make sure to like this video. Make sure to comment what type of content you guys want to see. And also, if you guys have any questions, please do write them in the comments.
I have 2 questions for you. 1, when are you going to stop defending this pedophilic homicidal maniac? And 2, what if this was your daughter or your son? Would you still be saying the same thing? I really hope you would not say the same thing for that.